A grand mansion stood in the heart of a bustling city, its towering walls hiding the secrets of those who lived within. The air inside carried the scent of luxury, yet beneath the glittering chandeliers and embroidered silk curtains, not every heart was at peace. Among those residing in this magnificent home was Aisha, a young woman with a radiant beauty that matched her intelligence and kindness. She had grown up surrounded by comfort, but her life had not been without sorrow. Aisha's mother had passed away when she was just a child, leaving behind a void that no one could fill. Her father, a respected businessman, was devastated, but soon found solace in another woman, believing that a new presence in their home would bring stability to his daughter's life. But fate had different plans. The woman he married was not the loving mother Aisha had longed for. Instead, she was a calculating and selfish individual who saw Aisha as nothing more than an obstacle. As the years passed, the stepmother's true nature became apparent. She adorned herself with expensive jewelry, entertained wealthy guests, and took charge of the household with an iron fist. While she showered her own children with affection, Aisha received nothing but cold stares and harsh words. The once vibrant and carefree girl soon learned to live in the shadows, forced to bear the brunt of her stepmother's resentment. Despite the mistreatment, Aisha never let bitterness consume her. She found solace in books, in moments of quiet reflection, and in the kindness of the few loyal servants who still remembered her mother. She dreamed of a day when she could break free from the chains that bound her. But with her father growing distant and her stepmother controlling everything, that day seemed impossibly far. In the grand halls of her father's house, she was a stranger, an unwanted presence in what was once her home. Every passing day was a silent battle, and though she never uttered a word of complaint, her heart carried the weight of loneliness. Little did she know that fate was already weaving a story far different from the one her stepmother had planned. Aisha's stepmother had always been driven by greed, and in her eyes, Aisha was nothing more than a pawn to be used for personal gain. As Aisha grew older, her beauty became undeniable, and whispers of her elegance and intelligence began to spread. The stepmother saw an opportunity. If she could marry Aisha off to a wealthy man, she could secure financial benefits for herself and rid the house of the girl she despised. With careful planning, she started weaving a web of deception. At social gatherings and among influential families, she spoke highly of Aisha's grace and obedience, portraying her as the perfect bride. She painted an image of a girl who would bring nothing but prosperity and honor to any household she entered. Her words traveled fast, and soon wealthy suitors began expressing interest. Aisha, however, had dreams of her own. She longed for a marriage built on love and mutual respect, not one dictated by wealth and power. She had seen how money could corrupt people, how it had turned her stepmother into someone cruel and selfish. She wanted a partner who would cherish her, not someone who saw her as an asset. When she learned of her stepmother's schemes, she refused to comply. Her defiance infuriated the stepmother. Used to controlling everyone around her, she couldn't tolerate Aisha's resistance. What should have been a moment of joy, the prospect of marriage, turned into a ruthless power struggle. The stepmother's gentle persuasion turned into threats. She warned Aisha that if she did not accept one of the rich proposals, she would be thrown out of the house with nothing. For the first time, Aisha truly felt the weight of her helplessness. She had no allies within the household, and her father, once her protector, had become distant, blindly trusting his wife's decisions. She was trapped between a future she didn't want and a fate she feared. The walls of her once grand home now felt like a prison, and with each passing day, the pressure mounted. But deep within, Aisha knew she could not let her stepmother dictate the course of her life. She had to find a way out, a way to reclaim her freedom before it was too late. What she didn't know was that her destiny was already taking shape, leading her toward an unexpected path, one that her stepmother would never see coming. Despite the suffocating environment of her home, Aisha had found a reason to smile. Her heart belonged to Raza, a kind-hearted yet poor man who had shown her the love and respect she had always yearned for. Their love was a secret, hidden from the prying eyes of the world, especially from her stepmother, who would never approve of such a match. Raza was everything the suitors her stepmother entertained were not. He was hard-working, honest, and humble, living a simple life filled with struggles, but never losing his dignity. He worked tirelessly, earning just enough to survive, yet his heart was richer than those who flaunted their wealth. Aisha had met him by chance one day in the marketplace, when he had helped an old woman being mistreated by a wealthy merchant. His kindness had drawn her in, and over time their stolen moments together deepened into love. They met in secrecy, away from the curious eyes of society. Under the shade of an ancient tree, or by the quiet banks of a river, they shared their dreams, their fears, and their hopes for a future where love mattered more than wealth. Aisha admired Raza's strength, his determination to build a life of honesty rather than resorting to greed. And Raza, in turn, cherished Aisha not for her beauty or her background, but for the kindness that shone in her soul. But their love was not without risk. Aisha knew that if her stepmother ever discovered the truth, the consequences would be severe. She would be locked away, punished, and forced into a marriage that would tear her from Raza forever. Each meeting carried the danger of exposure, yet neither could stay away. The fear of discovery weighed on them, but their love only grew stronger. Raza promised her that one day he would give her the life she deserved, even if he had nothing to offer but his devotion. Aisha, in return, vowed that she would never marry anyone else. However, fate was always watching, and secrets could not be kept forever. The world they had built in the shadows was on the verge of being shattered, and the storm that awaited them was far more dangerous than either of them could have imagined. Aisha knew that time was running out. Her stepmother was growing impatient, pressing her harder each day to accept one of the wealthy suitors. The threats had become more serious. If Aisha refused, she would be cast out with nothing. But Aisha had already made her choice. She would rather live a life of love in poverty than one of loneliness in luxury. One evening, beneath the fading golden light of the sun, Aisha met Raza in their secret spot. With urgency in her voice, she told him that they could not wait any longer. If they wished to be together, they had to act now. It was a dangerous decision, one that could change their lives forever. But Raza saw the determination in Aisha's eyes and knew there was no turning back. With the help of a kind-hearted elderly imam, they arranged for a secret nikah, marriage ceremony. It was a simple affair, no grand celebrations, no extravagant attire. Aisha wore a modest yet elegant dress, her beauty shining even without jewels or silk. Raza, in his plain but clean clothes, stood before her with nothing but love and a heart full of promises. The imam recited the vows, and in the presence of two witnesses, they became husband and wife. For the first time in her life, Aisha felt free. She was no longer bound by the chains of her stepmother's greed. She belonged to a man who loved her for who she was, not for what she could bring. That night, under the cover of darkness, she left behind the mansion that had never felt like home and stepped into a new life with Raza. But love alone could not shield her from the hardships of poverty. Raza's home was small, a single-room house with worn-out walls and a roof that leaked when it rained. There were no servants to wait on her, no lavish meals laid out on golden plates. Aisha, who had once lived in luxury, now had to wake up at dawn to fetch water, cook simple meals, and manage a household that had no riches, only love. The days were difficult. There were moments when her hands, unaccustomed to labor, ached from the work, nights when she missed the comfort of a soft bed. But whenever she looked at Raza, she found strength. He worked tirelessly to provide for her, never once complaining, never once regretting their decision. Despite the struggles, Aisha knew she had made the right choice. She had traded a golden cage for a life where she was cherished. But she also knew that the past had not let go of her yet. The secret of her marriage would not stay hidden forever, and when the truth came to light, the wrath of her stepmother would be unlike anything she had ever faced. Back at the grand mansion, Aisha's absence did not go unnoticed, but her stepmother, ever cunning and deceitful, knew how to twist the situation to her advantage. Rather than admitting that Aisha had left, she wove a web of lies, telling everyone that Aisha was still at home, obediently waiting for marriage. She spread rumors of her supposed devotion to family values, of her unmatched beauty and grace, ensuring that the interest of wealthy suitors only grew stronger. The proposals continued to pour in. Businessmen, landowners, and aristocrats, all eager to marry the virtuous Aisha, sent gifts and letters, hoping to secure a union. Each proposal brought with it the promise of riches, and the stepmother's greed knew no bounds. She carefully evaluated every offer, treating Aisha as nothing more than a commodity to be sold to the highest bidder. The more powerful and wealthy the man, the more eager she was to finalize the marriage. But what she did not know was that Aisha was already married, living a modest life with Raza. The thought of her stepmother manipulating her name, offering her hand in marriage to men she had never met, sent shivers down Aisha's spine. She wanted to scream the truth, to expose the lies, but she knew the risk was too great. If the stepmother ever discovered the secret marriage, her wrath would be unstoppable. She would do whatever it took to separate Aisha from Raza. She could bribe officials, spread false accusations, or even resort to violence. Aisha could not allow that to happen. The fear of losing Raza, of seeing him harmed because of her, forced her into silence. Trapped between two worlds, Aisha's heart ached. In Raza's small home, she found love and warmth. Yet the looming danger of discovery never left her mind. She lived each day in fear, knowing that with every passing moment, the walls of deception her stepmother had built were closing in. Meanwhile, the stepmother was growing impatient. She could not keep up the illusion forever. Soon, she would have to present Aisha to her chosen suitor, to finalize the marriage deal that would bring her the wealth she craved. The moment of reckoning was drawing closer, and Aisha knew that when it arrived, there would be no place left to hide. One evening, as Aisha sat in the small courtyard of her humble home, she spoke softly to Raza about her worries. The weight of their secret was becoming unbearable, and she feared what would happen if the truth ever surfaced. She never imagined that her words would fall upon the wrong ears. A servant from her father's house, who had come to the marketplace, happened to pass by and recognized her voice. Hidden behind a wall, he listened in shock as Aisha spoke of her love for Raza, their secret marriage, and her stepmother's deceit. Unable to contain his curiosity, he hurried back to the mansion and relayed everything he had heard to the stepmother, who had been growing suspicious of Aisha's disappearance. The stepmother's fury knew no bounds. Her carefully crafted lies were on the verge of collapsing, her plans for wealth slipping through her fingers. How dare Aisha defy her? How dare she bring shame upon the family by marrying a poor man? In her rage, she ordered her guards to find Aisha immediately and drag her back to the house. That night, as Aisha prepared to sleep, the sound of heavy footsteps filled the air. Before she could react, the door burst open, and she was forcibly taken by the guards. She screamed for Raza, but they silenced her, dragging her back to the mansion she had once called home. The stepmother stood waiting, her eyes filled with cold hatred. Without a word, she ordered Aisha to be locked in a dark room, the windows covered, the door bolted shut. Aisha pounded against the walls, demanding to be freed, but her cries were ignored. The next morning, the stepmother confronted her. "You have humiliated me," she spat, "but I will not let you destroy everything I've built. You will forget that man, and you will marry the suitor I choose." Aisha's heart pounded in fear, but her resolve was unshaken. "I will never leave Raza," she said firmly. "I am his wife. Nothing you do can change that." The stepmother's expression darkened. "If you do not obey, I will make sure Raza suffers." He will regret ever laying eyes on you. Aisha's blood ran cold. She had expected anger, even punishment, but she had not anticipated this level of cruelty. The thought of Raza being harmed because of her was unbearable. But despite the threats, she refused to give in. "Do what you will to me," she said, her voice steady, "but I will never betray my husband." The stepmother's patience was running out. She had to act fast before the news spread and ruined her reputation. Aisha was determined to fight for her love, but she did not yet realize just how far her stepmother was willing to go to tear them apart. Raza could feel in his heart that something was wrong. Aisha had not returned home, and the silence of the night was unsettling. He searched the streets, asked neighbors, but no one had seen her. Panic gripped him. He knew her stepmother was capable of cruelty, but had she truly gone so far as to take Aisha by force? He refused to stand by while his wife suffered. He had spent his life enduring hardships, but he would not endure this. Aisha was his life, and he would fight for her. With nothing but determination in his heart, he decided to do the unthinkable. He would go to the one person who had the power to stop this madness: Aisha's father. The mansion loomed before him, a place of wealth and power where he did not belong. But Raza was not afraid. He demanded to speak to Aisha's father, his voice unwavering. The guards tried to turn him away, but his desperation caught the attention of the master of the house. Aisha's father, a man once lost in the affairs of business and blinded by trust in his wife, finally listened. Raza spoke with raw emotion, telling him everything: how he and Aisha had married, how she had been taken against her will, and how the stepmother had deceived everyone for her own greed. A heavy silence followed. The father's face paled as realization struck. He had believed his wife's words, never questioning her actions, never seeing the cruelty his daughter had endured. Now, the truth stood before him, undeniable and painful. He had failed Aisha. A storm of anger and guilt consumed him. Without another word, he marched inside, his presence like thunder rolling through the mansion. The servants trembled as they watched. The stepmother, smug in her victory, had no idea that her reign was about to crumble. The confrontation was inevitable. When the father found his wife, his voice boomed with rage. "Where is Aisha?" The stepmother, for the first time, hesitated. She had never seen this fire in his eyes before. "I was only protecting her," she tried to lie. "She was making a terrible mistake." "You were protecting yourself," he roared. "You have lied to me, manipulated me, and treated my daughter like a pawn. Where is she?" The stepmother's face twisted with fury. "She has brought shame upon this family. You should be thanking me for trying to fix her mistake." But the father was no longer blinded by her words. He ordered the servants to open the locked room. When Aisha emerged, weak but unbroken, his heart shattered. He had let this happen under his own roof. Seeing Raza standing there, unyielding and fearless, he knew what he had to do. His daughter's happiness had been stolen for too long. It was time to make things right. The stepmother's empire of lies was crumbling, and she was about to face the consequences of her own cruelty. The walls of deception the stepmother had built around herself began to collapse. As Aisha's father pieced together the truth, his anger turned to cold determination. He would not allow his wife's greed and cruelty to continue destroying lives. Word of the scandal spread quickly. The wealthy suitors who had been lured in by the stepmother's lies withdrew their proposals, disgusted by her deception. Servants who had once feared her now whispered behind her back, no longer willing to obey a woman who had lost all credibility. The same society she had once tried to impress now turned against her. Faced with the weight of her exposed lies, the stepmother's downfall was swift. Aisha's father cast her out, stripping her of the wealth and comfort she had clung to so desperately. Without power, without influence, she was left to fend for herself, abandoned by the very people she had sought to manipulate. For the first time in years, Aisha's father looked at his daughter with true understanding. He saw the pain she had endured, the love she had fought for, and the injustice she had suffered at the hands of his wife. Guilt washed over him, but he knew words alone would not be enough to undo the past. "I failed you," he admitted, his voice heavy with regret. "I let greed blind me, and I trusted the wrong person. But I see the truth now. If Raza is the man you have chosen, then he is my son as well." Raza, though wary, saw the sincerity in his father-in-law's eyes. He had never expected acceptance, but he had fought for Aisha, not for validation. Still, he knew how much this moment meant to her. With quiet respect, he nodded, acknowledging the apology not with words, but with forgiveness. With the burden of secrecy lifted, Aisha and Raza could finally begin their life together without fear. Their small home, once a place of hiding, now became a place of hope. Though they did not have riches, they had something far greater: love, respect, and the freedom to build their future on their own terms. Aisha no longer missed the luxury of her old life. She found joy in the simple moments, preparing meals with Raza, watching the sunrise from their doorstep, and knowing that every day was hers to live as she chose. The ordeal had taught everyone a lesson. Wealth alone does not bring happiness. Love, honesty, and integrity held far greater value than gold and jewels. Aisha's father, humbled by his mistakes, vowed to never let greed cloud his judgment again. As for Aisha and Raza, they had proven that true love could overcome even the harshest trials. Their story became a testament to the power of love and resilience, a reminder that sometimes the greatest riches in life are found in the people who stand by us, not in the material possessions we own. As Aisha sat on the small wooden porch of her home, watching the evening sky turn shades of orange and pink, she reflected on everything she had endured. The girl who had once lived in a grand mansion, trapped under the weight of her stepmother's greed, had found freedom in the arms of a man who loved her for who she was, not for what she could bring. She had faced cruelty, betrayal, and hardship, yet she had never lost hope. Her journey had been one of pain and struggle, but it had also been one of growth. She had learned to stand up for herself, to fight for love, and to choose happiness over material wealth. She had once feared the life of poverty, but now she realized that true richness came from love, kindness, and the people who stood by her side. Raza, too, had grown from the experience. He had always been hard-working, but now, with Aisha's support, he pushed himself even further. Through determination and effort, he built a stable life for them. He started a small business, and over time, it flourished. He was no longer just a poor man struggling to survive. He was a man who had created something meaningful with his own hands. Aisha's father, still filled with regret, remained part of their lives, making an effort to rebuild his relationship with his daughter. He had lost many things: his wealth, his wife, and the illusion of control. But he had gained wisdom. He now understood that love and honesty were far greater treasures than the riches he had once chased. As for the stepmother, she faded into the past, her own greed becoming her downfall. Without wealth or power to manipulate those around her, she was left to face the consequences of her own actions. In the end, love had triumphed over greed, honesty had shattered deception, and Aisha and Raza had proven that happiness did not come from gold or status, but from the warmth of a shared life, from laughter over simple meals, from standing together through the hardest of times. Their story became one of inspiration, a reminder that true love, once found, could weather any storm. As they built their life together, brick by brick, day by day, they knew they had already found the greatest treasure of all, each other. And so, under the vast open sky, with love in their hearts and a future they had built with their own hands, Aisha and Raza lived happily, proving that love was, and always would be, greater than riches. The story of Aisha and Raza teaches us a profound lesson about the true value of love, honesty, and perseverance. In a world where wealth and status often define a person's worth, Their journey proves that genuine happiness comes not from riches, but from the strength of human connection, respect, and unwavering devotion. Aisha's life began in privilege, but she was never truly free. Under her stepmother's rule, she was treated as a commodity rather than a person, her worth measured by the wealth she could bring through marriage. Her stepmother's greed blinded her to the fact that true fulfillment does not come from money, but from love and kindness. Despite the pressure to conform, Aisha chose love over luxury, proving that material wealth is meaningless without happiness and inner peace. Raza's character teaches us the importance of integrity and perseverance. Though poor in material possessions, he was rich in kindness, hard work, and loyalty. He did not let his circumstances define him or dictate his future. Instead of being intimidated by the wealth and power of Aisha's family, he stood firm, fighting for his love and proving that a sincere heart can overcome even the most difficult obstacles. Aisha's father represents those who, blinded by societal norms and trust in the wrong people, fail to see the truth until it is too late. His regret serves as a reminder that neglecting our loved ones in pursuit of status and wealth can lead to irreversible damage. However, his redemption arc shows that it is never too late to change. By recognizing his mistakes and embracing Raza as his son-in-law, he redeems himself, demonstrating that a person's true worth is not measured by their wealth, but by their character. The downfall of the stepmother is a crucial lesson in karma. What we sow, we ultimately reap. Her obsession with wealth led her to manipulate and deceive, but in the end, her own greed became her undoing. She lost everything, proving that dishonesty and selfishness may bring temporary gains, but they always lead to eventual downfall. This story ultimately teaches us that love is the greatest wealth one can possess. Relationships built on trust, loyalty, and genuine care are far more valuable than riches or social status. While money can buy comfort, it cannot buy true happiness, respect, or love. Aisha and Raza's journey is a testament to the fact that no obstacle is too great when two people are willing to fight for each other. In the end, they did not need a grand palace or endless wealth to be happy. They found joy in the simple moments, in the warmth of companionship, and in the security of knowing they had chosen each other despite the odds. Their story reminds us that while riches may fade, love, honesty, and perseverance create a lasting legacy, one that no amount of money can ever replace.